Welcome back to my walkthrough on Fire Emblem Three Houses. This video is going to be on the game's biggest battle, the Battle of the Eagle and the Lion. I'm actually going to skip this cutscene. Now this is actually going to be a very interesting battle because, as you've probably heard throughout the game, you're going to hear, or you're going to fight, I should say, a lot of enemies. Because you're fighting everyone from the three houses. There'll be something actually very interesting to note when you're starting the fight, and this will change depending on how many people you've recruited at this point. I should emphasize that if you haven't yet recruited people, whether you're playing on Casual or Classic, now is a good time to do so. I'm not going to show you my party at this instant, but I'm going to show you what the map looks like. On the north side, you're going to have your party. And they're going to include whatever individuals you have or haven't recruited. But they're mostly going to be, at least in my game, for the Black Eagles. On the lower right hand side, you're going to have the Golden Deer House. On the lower left, you will have the Blue Lions. On the upper left, and it's important to note that there is an upper left, you're going to have some Pegasus warriors. You also have some two cavaliers and an archer on the upper right. Two knights from the Blue Lions in the center. And an archer at the very center of the map covering a ballista. Now you might notice that your game looks a little bit different from mine. Depending on who you've recruited and who you haven't, you will see your classmates on either side. Now, I happen to have recruited everybody because I figured out their requirements early on, so I have all the recruits. But this battle is interesting because you're fighting against everyone, and anyone you have recruited, it gets replaced with a generic class character, so you're not really missing out on the true extent of the challenge. I mean, at the end of the day, for example, if I recruit Ash, the archer, he would take this spot. If I recruit, say, Raphael, he would really just take the place of this Alliance General right here. Lysithea, right there. Marianne. You could easily find replacements on both sides. That's not the important part. But the important part is to remember that this map layout will, or the opponent layout, I should say, will differ depending on who you have and haven't recruited. Now, this battle is going to start with two things. A, you're going to be notified that you will earn more rewards if you defeat everyone, or many enemies on the battlefield. And two, this ballista is very important. Now, I'm going to select the ballista because it's very important to know why it's important. And it's because it's got an incredibly wide range. As the participants start to dwindle, they'll start getting towards the center. Now, currently the Blue Lions control this, but if you actually ever manage to disrupt it, you'll be at a very, very good advantage. Because you can put your archer, in this game it's going to be Bernadetta, but if you've recruited Ash or Ignatz, or gotten another sniper class, they'll be sniper archer class, they'll be good here in this battle as well. Oops. Let me go back there. And we'll start. Now, it's also very important, and I mean this seriously, to remember that you're pretty much open for attack the moment you start. And you're just going to have to split your priorities up. Now, I've gone with the basic default team for this game, including Flane. I shouldn't really have to discuss why you have Flane as a choice if you've been paying attention to the story. But it shouldn't matter too much anyway. Now, as always, keep your mages close to the side and have them flanked by your offensive units, or in some cases, your tanks. Always remember whose attack range you're in at all times. Now, I'm going to have a majority of my units go through here, but if you have a Pegasus Knight or you're willing to fight through these forests, it's perfectly fine
I will get the victory.
To send some of your units through that forest. That's the ballista being used. Now, obviously, its strength is going to differ depending on the person using it. Currently, the archer is not going to be a really... Even if it is Ash or Ignatz, it's not going to be a very big advantage. It's not going to deal a lot. If you have Bernadetta at a very high level, and she's on that ballista, she's going to start devastating opponents left and right. So the strength of the archer is just as important. Now you will notice that there are quite a lot of knights on this battlefield. When I mean knights, I mean like cavalier enemies, as well as cavalier enemies, the Pegasus Knights, as I've mentioned before, and heavy armored enemies. You want a balance of magic users. Cavaliers with Knight Kneeler are also a very good option, and something for the magic casters, because there will always be magic casters. Now I'm going to rush up straight down the end. My characters are still really powerful and don't have to worry too much. But notice I'm not being terribly aggressive anyway, because I need to make sure people like Lynn Hart and Dorothea don't immediately get slaughtered. Because contrary to popular belief, they're not strong enough to withstand a full-on assault. So if you can cover them, cover them. Now, Flame is just really good to have in case you need to split up the teams and you need another Linhardt. Because I cannot stress the importance of having multiple healers in this fight.
You are nothing.
Also, if you're having some trouble, the right battalion can help, and the right gambit can help you turn the tides. So do remember that if you're struggling taking down the leaders, which would be, in this case, Dimitri and Claude. Now, the two sides are going to get into their own share of fights. Don't worry too much about them.
Who told you to jump out there?
Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth here. Because, again, this is really just a strategy where you have to not only gang up on units, but watch your backs, take advantage of the terrain. For example, these 3 Pegasus Knights, and it's always helpful to see who they're targeting, are now just going to come for Byleth en masse. If I don't remember that, I'm going to get slaughtered. Now, I know my characters are at a high level, and I overtrained for this fight, but you'd be surprised how many of these characters can take down one of your characters who can even be double their level. Do not get cocky in this fight, especially if you're on Classic. Now I'm going to free up this ballista.
You fought well.
Don't worry too much about the chest key, because there's not really... As you can see, there is a chest to open, but if you've got a thief, the thief can take care of it. Now, your biggest priority, if you ever have the ballista, is to get your archer, in my case, that's going to be Bernadetta, to the center of it. Now, those Pegasus Knights are going to cause a huge problem if I leave them unchecked, because their increased mobility will present a problem I don't know how to deal with. So the best thing I can do is eliminate as many of them as I can. And if I can't, I'll just shore up my defense as much as I can and cover people as much as I can.
The mark of nobility.
Now, you might not be able to kill everybody because units will make their own moves as the game progresses, but if you can, get to as many units as you can.
As expected.
The two armies are inevitably going to clash. Spoiler alert, this is just a prelude of things to come. Actually, it wasn't really much of a spoiler. Almost everybody knew this was going to happen anyway because of the way the characters start talking to each other. Oh well.
This was beneath me.
Now Bernadetta is in position, and in order to use the ballista, just select the arms option, and she can now immediately hit anyone, and I mean anyone, in that giant red zone. And the reason again why it's important to note that giant red zone is because, as I said, she can hit anyone. And that is a very key advantage that this game doesn't normally present. But one that is nonetheless very important to take advantage of. Now I'm actually going to start splitting my team into two. I'm going to have Petra, Linhart, and Dorothea start moving towards the right side of the field. I'm going to have Byleth. Well, actually, I'll have Byleth and Dorothea go down the center and steer them either left or right, depending on the battle changes. But I just need to get control of the battlefield in whatever way I can. Now, once again, I shouldn't have to point out that the captains and their lieutenants are extremely powerful. So for Dimitri, and it's going to be Dedu, and Dedu is nothing to sniff at. And there's Hilda for Claude. Now, Hilda comes with a mace, which means if you come at her with a armored knight or anyone wearing heavy armor, they're going to die or take double damage. So be aware of that if you're charging at her and you had anyone like, let's say, you know, Egelgard go for the heavy armored class, or Caspar even, because Hilda's going to make short work of them.
You are nothing.
In this case, I just took care of things relatively quickly, but as I said, this is really just... I only overleveled my characters, so things would be a lot easier, and I wouldn't have to run through a walkthrough where things don't go according to plan and I can't show you things.
Lay waste to them. Here!
Let's turn the tables.
Okay, now, as you can see, the number of units is starting to dwindle. That doesn't mean, however, that there is nobody that Bernadetta can't target. And again, no matter what, both of the armies were going to converge on the center, whether or not you want them to, because they're going to fight with each other, even if your side doesn't interfere. Now, a healer is particularly annoying, so I'm going to take out that healer. Going to have Hubert move on, while I think Flame can deal with that knight or cavalier perfectly.
Only a fool challenges me.
I'm going to give Ferdinand some backup in the form of Petra. I would have Dorothea continually stick to Byleth. Byleth will now stand in the middle of that fight and take out everybody. Again, enemy positioning, always be aware. Remember, you've got two different sides that are willing to attack you. Pay attention to what's going on.
Let's go.
By the way, you might think I'm just joking when I say, oh, be careful about your characters, even though you're double level or double their level, they don't pose a threat. They actually do. I've actually lost characters to the Pegasus Knights, even though I was double their level. Again, just a way to show that you do not mess around or you don't take my advice lightly when I say these guys can probably take you out, because they most likely can.
Your defeat was inevitable.
As you can see, the units will now begin to dwindle, so the attack range won't be that far. Again, keep an eye on it at all times, and plan where you're going to move your units. Working in teams does not seem very efficient at first, but if you keep everyone closely bunched together, it's a great way to leave everybody alive. If anyone is at risk of getting killed, you've got some heal tiles around the map. You may want to focus fire on one side if you need access to it. If you control the center of the map, which is obviously the most ideal condition, you've got an easy to access one right here. But if it's too difficult, no archer is going to deal too much damage while they're on the ballista. Just avoid the edges. Still, there we go.
The mark of nobility.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
This main character took all the time to go there. I might as well just open the chest.
You were wide open. My heart is full of victory.
I hate to say it, but it seems we're at a stalemate.
Now that Claude is taken care of, and you've gotten one side, and you still have control of the ballista, you can focus on the other. Remember, it's all about smart positioning. You need to keep your team together, or, you know, you're not going to succeed. It really sounds stupid to talk about, you know, ganging up in a game like Fire Emblem sometimes, but I really mean it when I say that you're not going to succeed if you don't have any idea where you're sending your units, or you're running in head first. You have got to plan, got to plan, got to plan. But again, there are no real surprises that you haven't already encountered. It's just this match is different because of all the planning.
You didn't give it your all.
And the fact that you're getting enemies on both sides. Killer Lance, not really worth getting out of my way for. Eventually, when the units start dwindling down, you will find that the ballista doesn't become very convenient anymore. It's not useless, it just means you'll either have to lure enemies out or eventually abandon it. By the way, there's no shame in abandoning it. You just eventually won't need it after a while. Because some enemies either won't run after you, or it's much better to finish off the fight just by abandoning the ballista. Again, if you're at that point in the game where you can abandon the ballista, you're probably doing really well anyways. Now I'm going to keep Ferdinand with Dorothea. Just move everyone to the side. They're just extras at this point because Claude is gone, so there are significantly less threats to worry about. The only one to really worry about is Dimitri. And as you've probably seen when Claude fought, Dimitri and Claude are not pushovers. That being said...
So,
If the Empire and the Kingdom...
I'm sorry, but that is...
In that case, I wonder when you...
fear I cannot.
Now, even though I've taken out Dimitri and Claude, and this is the reason why I actually rushed to finish Dimitri first and left that one magician alive, the battle isn't over until all units are defeated. In just case you need to see it. Rout the enemy, which means take care of every single enemy. So even if you've beaten everybody, look, if you're on hard or you're on classic, I know I'm playing on normal casual like a scrub, well, the battle's not over till it's over. Do not get careless. Actually, could have ended that just now with Dorothea, but I probably won't. Actually, might as well. Nope. I'll just have Caspar take her out.
No one makes it
Once you've taken out the final units,
That is the end of this year's The Black Eagle.
the results will be announced. Obviously, you're gonna have to win because, well, that's your win condition.
Thank you for your hard work.
You'll get a prize if you do defeat more enemies than the other classes, but otherwise, that's basically the Battle of the Eagle and the Lion in a nutshell. Nothing too difficult about this battle, other than, of course, you're fighting two sides who will gang up on you. So always make teams, keep units together, gang up, take advantage of weaknesses like arrows against the Pegasus Knights, Knight Kneelers or anti-cavalry against the Cavaliers, and heavy armor needs magic. Keep things in mind, have Edelgard and Byleth take care of the big leaders, or other units if they're strong enough, and you'll have this battle done in a nutshell. That's my walkthrough for the Battle of the Eagle and the Lion. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and look, there'll be more like this in the future, so I hope to see you next time.